to all of those that have joined. Thank you for taking the time. I know we're all live very busy lives, and this is a little bit of a ask. There's Robert. I see Robert. I work with the company that is proposing the community, Warmington Residential. And I'd like to introduce some of the design team as well that's joined us to this point. Robert Lee is with us. He works with William Helsman-Hulch Architect. Jason Neary, who I think is on mute right now, is a principal at CBG Civil Engineers. They're a civil engineer of record. And Ruchi Sachdev, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Ruchi, also works with William Helsman-Hulch, and there are architects of record. Mary Carden, our landscape architect of record, may join later to address any landscaping-related questions that the community has. And then one more name I just wanted to mention to you, Namisha, is a Mike Banducci, who works with Warmington. He may pop up in the participant list, and if you see him, certainly promote him. Oh, there's Adam right there. Let me promote Adam. Let's see if there's anyone else. Sorry, I didn't realize that we have so many people. I need to just scroll. I'm looking for an Evan and a Mary, who I don't see. So why don't we just get started? Everyone lives busy lives, and we have somewhat limited time, but I trust that we'll afford whatever time is necessary to hear everyone's comments. I'm going to share my screen and take you through a presentation that we put together for the community. And after that is finished, it should only take me 10 minutes. It's a few slides. We can entertain comments or questions from the community, okay? So if there aren't any other kind of preface type comments to make, I will share my screen. And let's see, we want that one. And you should now be seeing the first slide, Warmington Residential, Pomeroy, Calabazas townhome community, located at 1370 Calabazas Boulevard and 1575 and 1577 Pomeroy Avenue, city of Santa Clara. This first slide that we'll go to again in the presentation shows what we call an illustrative site plan of the proposed community. And this is over the 3 parcels or addresses that I just gave. This was submitted with our what we're calling a tentative map submittal, which is the start of the application. So we're just getting into this. This is concept. It's a work in progress, and this shows the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different buildings. It shows the landscaping that's between the buildings and the neighboring properties, and it shows the internal street as well as the off-street parking that is proposed. And we'll get into the bedroom counts and the parking spaces counts. But this gives you a sense of how it lays out, and this large common space that buffers this building from the single family home. And we can get into the particulars as we progress through the presentation. The overview, I don't know, Namisha, if there still is an issue with this link, but that's a link that I guess should take you to the city website and help you not only access this presentation, but connect you to the current status of the project. We're very excited to present this community. Again, this is 33 new condominium homes that consists of 29 townhouse style units and 4 stack flats. The plans that we're going to present tonight include revisions that respond to comments that we received from our very concept plans last year, kind of towards the end of summer. we still do need to conduct an environmental analysis as part of the approval process. That has not yet started. The way we've organized this presentation for you all is we'll talk a little bit about the location, a little bit about our land plan, and a little bit about the proposed homes and the impacts to the community. So as many of you know, this proposed community is located in this area of Santa Clara. We have a couple different views, and you can see its proximity to various bus stops, including a couple that are, I think, fast buses or rapid transit bus stops. And there's 2 of those locations. This view shows you the proposed community as it relates to the middle school, the high school, the elementary school, and Carmichael Park. It's transit oriented based on its proximity to bus stops. The community will also provide a variety of family housing within walking distance to those transit stops. And specifically, there's 1 block to a bus stop and 3 blocks to rapid transit bus stops. And the proximity to schools, the high school, the middle school, and elementary in Carmichael Park, we reviewed in the aerial preceding this slide. And it's a pretty short walk to Carmichael Park as well. Again, this is the illustrative. It's blown up a little bit. You can kind of get a sense of how the buildings are situated relative to the adjacent properties. The setbacks, I think the minimum in the plan as it currently exists, and we continue to work on it, is a minimum 15 feet. So we meet all the side yard setbacks. And again, this common area for the residents that provides quite a generous buffer between this particular building that we call Building 3 and the single family home. And the residence is here where I'm waving my cursor. I guess the other thing to note is there's an area here that accommodates picnics, and there's a flexible space here within which people can enjoy whatever gaming activity they prefer. As far as the setbacks, and notwithstanding my statement of 15, again, this is a work in progress. There's a lot of plans in front of me, but the community would be set back at least 20 feet from both Pomeroy Avenue and Calabazas Boulevard, promoting some consistency with adjacent developments by proposing a similar landscape street front setback. Sending back 4th floor elements. On some of these units, community members, there are options for prospective home buyers, should this be approved, to elect to purchase an optional roof deck. And we can get into how those are set back from the rear and front facades so that we're clear on how those are situated, again, relative to adjacent uses. And the way that we've done that is to allow just what's stated here, a transition between adjacent uses. We've oriented all the garage parking to the interior of the site and away from the street view, relegating any noise associated with future resident parking or usage of garage doors and space away from existing and adjacent residences and uses. 45% of the community land plan will be landscaped. Community spaces with significant screening elements on the periphery of the community to minimize potential building mass related impacts to the adjacent existing single family home, apartment buildings, and townhome style homes. There's the large common space that I pointed out, anchored by a plaza with built-in seating and a gathering area. And again, the versatile game area up in that corner, where there is also a community barbecue and picnic tables. Parking, I know, has been a comment that's been queried to our planning staff as well as my colleagues. So I wanted to touch on that early. The community land plan will increase the number of parking spaces by 14 spaces. So we currently have 73 proposed parking spaces. Ultimately, we will end up, based on how the plan is evolving, with more than is required. Currently, there are 59 parking spaces on the 3 parcels, not just the 2, that have current apartment units on them. And there's 2 spaces per unit, save for our 2 flats. Plus, again, this 9 is in flux based on some comments that we're responding to from both planning and fire. But again, we'll be beyond that, which is required, including gas handicap and an electric vehicle space. And again, this plan is a work in process. So as we go through this, we'll look forward to your comments. This is how building 1 and 2 look in elevation as currently proposed. And I can flip back quickly so that you can see where those buildings are. That's these buildings here. This is 1. This is 2. And just to be clear, the garages are located, as you would suspect, right off the street. So the front elevations are here, not on the street. So those are the elevations that face this particular property line. And we can go back and forth on these slides, folks, as your questions and comments require. But you can see that there are 3-story structures. And in certain areas, we have proposed 4-story elements, albeit set back, that are right now optional features. And you can see how the building mass is broken up with color, with window patterns, and exterior elements. And these are building 4 and 5, this is building 4 here. And so the front elevation would be that which is facing this building, and the rear of the garage is facing the street. So we'll go to that again. So this is the front. Again, you can see how the buildings articulate not only in elevation or height, but also in depth. You can see how they're broken up in both pop-outs, if you will, and the color scheme and exterior elements. This is building 5, which is on the other side of building 4, again, right off Calabazas, different color scheme with, some of the units having, so this is a staircase, and so that's a 4-story element. And these would be the backside of that and the ends of the buildings. Building 3, which is located immediately adjacent to that large common landscaped area off of Pomeroy. This would be the elevation off the street. This would be that which is adjacent to the single-family home in the apartment building. And I believe, Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, this would be right, left. If this is, so I think this would be the elevation that is here, yes. So this is the one that you would see from the street. Here, beg your pardon, building 3. And some facts on the community. The proposed neighborhood includes 2, 3, and 4-bedroom homes that provide a mix of housing that can serve a wide range of home buyers. The buildings are 3 stories, with some homes including a 4th-story mezzanine. We're calling that a roof deck as well. The maximum building height of the proposed project is 43 feet, which meets the current zoning. The floor plans include space for an audibly private workspace addressing the growing work-from-home trend. The proposed 33 homes will be the same as the number replaced, but larger and more valuable, as well as more bedrooms without increasing the density and providing more parking spaces. The community will be townhouse style condominiums and flats with an HOA that finances all maintenance of building exteriors, landscaping, amenities, private storm drainage, private streets, parking, and a C3 water treatment basin. I can show you the location of that in a minute. The community will include the required number of accessible units as well. On affordable housing, the community will meet the inclusionary housing ordinance with 4 of the homes interspersed throughout the community being available for sale to low or moderate income levels. Those levels are a percentage of what they call the adjusted median income at these percentages. the balance of what would otherwise be a fractional unit will be paid out in the form of a fee. This is a breakout of what we call the unit mix, the type of homes. There's two bedroom, 1-bath flats with a 1-car garage, two 2-1 flats with 2-car tandem garage. These are also the net square footages of the units. 7 2.5-bath flats with 2-car tandems, 11 3-bedroom, 3.5-bath with 2 cars side by side, and 11 4-bedroom, 3.5-bath with 2-car side by side garages. That's approximately just over 36,000 of livable square footage. And as far as bike parking, we have about 39 bike parking spaces within the units and on the grounds. And again, currently, as submitted, 73 total parking spaces. We may end up with slightly less, but we will end up with more than that as proposed. That's kind of the bar that we continue to clear. The existing buildings at 1575 Pomeroy is a single-family residence. That's a 3-2, and it's about 1,300 square feet. At 1577 Pomeroy, that's a multifamily building. There's 20 apartments and 20 bedrooms. And that's the rough order of magnitude total square footage there. And lastly, the building off of 1370 Calabazas, that's 12 apartments. Those are 2 bedrooms, so 24 bedrooms. There you have 33 units, just over 28,000 square feet, and there's 59 spaces. As far as compliance with the city general plan and zoning, the general plan designation for these parcels is medium density residential, which allows a density of 20 to 36 dwelling units per gross acre. The proposed plan has a density at the very bottom of that range at 20.9. The current zoning for the 3 parcels is as follows: R325D, R336D, and R16L. The last is the single-family residence, and the first 2 are for the apartment buildings that we reviewed in the slide above at these 2 addresses. We are proposing to utilize Assembly Bill 3194 using zoning regulations for R336D, which is medium density multiple dwelling. That's a zoning district, as this zoning designation is consistent with the general plan and allows the community to have 4 stories up to 45 feet, which we're under, increase the net bedrooms by 52, 47 to 99, and increase the livable square footage by almost 30%. As far as neighborhood compatibility, we've oriented the buildings and streets to allow for consistency with the city transition goals and policies in the general plan, chapter 5.5.2. And we can go over those specific things in the landscaping notes under the land plan. The proposed land plan will serve as a transition between the more intense development envisioned by the El Camino specific plan along El Camino Real and the lower density residences surrounding the proposed community and further south of El Camino Real. This is the timeline for the project as we currently see it. This is an estimate. And, typically it's really hard to pinpoint exact dates when you're just getting into the entitlement process, which is the stage of development that we're in now. But we essentially break out a project schedule in 4 categories: approvals, which is what we're doing now, and that is a work in process. The pre-application submittal was made in June of last year. The tentative map was made earlier this year in January. And our goal is to get a deemed complete status for the application next month and for full discretionary approvals later this year. If that schedule is held, construction could start as early as the 3rd quarter of next year, building permits and then construction in terms of groundbreaking towards the end of next year. Grand opening and sales would be a year thereafter, with the grand opening at the bottom of 2 years from now, and then build out with final sales being approximately 3 years from where we stand on this year's calendar. And that is our presentation. What I've done, just so you all know, is I have the full plan set that was submitted in January, starting with the landscape, all teed up here on subsequent slides. But what I thought I would do, Nimisha and Gloria, if it's okay with you, is to stop here and listen in on the community. Do you need me to give you share screen ability, or should we just keep this up to help perhaps address comments or questions?
Sure. So if everyone could use the raise your hand tool to indicate if you'd like to speak. We see 2 so far.
So Tony, I'm seeing a message in the chat box, and they are asking if we could go one slide back to see the schedule again.
Absolutely. And again, it's an estimate, but this is our best estimate today.
Okay, so I see 3 speakers. So Diane Harrison is first, Damian Roman, and then Ken Kratz. So for right now, those are the 3 hands. Let's see, do you want to unmute Diane?
I could do that, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Nimisha.
Diane, I have unmuted you now.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I did send an email to Nimisha. I figured I'd go ahead and read that. Whoops, just pop back. We live a few blocks away, and we walk by this project site often. So this is why we're interested. We don't actually live in this area. And first of all, I made a comment on next door. There are already, as you mentioned, 30 to 40 low to moderate income rentals on this lot, which supposedly is the goal. They're in good shape. People are living in them. And those people are to be kicked out without so much as a buy your leave. We spoke with one of those gentlemen on one of our walks, and they are not being offered anything. How easy will it be for them all to find another affordable place to live? And I did notice on this presentation that only 4 affordable units were being built out of all the 32, whereas right now they're all, I think, more affordable, at least from what that gentleman told us. On the other hand, the portion of the lot that is the single family house, I'm fine with whatever they decide to build there. The house has been boarded up for quite a while, and it currently detracts from the neighborhood. The existing apartments do not. So yeah, basically our feeling is that we should leave the existing apartments in place, only build up the single lot. But if for some reason it has to happen, every tenant should be offered a unit, same number of bedrooms and bathrooms, approximately the same size, somewhere in Santa Clara at the exact same rent that they're paying now during construction. And the developer will pay the difference. And then those people would need to be offered a similar size unit in the new complex, though, although considering what you just told us, I don't know how easy that will be, although some of them, at least for the 2-bedroom folks, and, or something, or maybe some sort of working it out with the new complex that they're living in. So anyway, that basically we don't want those people to become homeless. That is not a solution to affordable housing. And if they are just left on their own, they have moving expenses, and they may not even be able to find one, and they might become homeless. We really don't want to go there. So please be fair to the existing tenants, and ideally don't even destroy their homes at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Damien Romard.
Oh, did you want me to respond to Diane? Because there might be similar comments. I just wanted Diane and everyone to know that you're right. You know, what we're proposing isn't 100% affordable community. And it's not exactly what Warmington does. The 4 units that are being provided are per city ordinance. That said, your comments are very well taken. We will have a consultant that will assist the residents with relocation. We will offer a few months free rent, and make sure that they have ample notice of groundbreaking so that that transition is smooth.
I think Namisha just confirmed that I'm correct. That the city doesn't have any authority to require or compel relocation or other costs. That's nothing
Right.
that you can attach to the project. There's various state laws that prevail in as applied to this development. So we cannot attach discretionary conditions like that to a project. And there's no ordinance that the city has adopted to affect something of that nature. So we do look to the developer really to address any of those concerns, or but it's strictly on a voluntary basis. So that's the reason why we're looking at producing more affordable units to make those available in the general community. Okay, let's see.
Right. And we understand the same, but even though it's not a requirement of us, you know, again, Diane, you know, we feel similarly. So that's why we're willing to help.
Thank you, Tony. Damien?
Damien, you're not unmuted.
Okay, so I'm Damien Romard. I'm on the board for Park El Camino, which is the development directly to the east, I guess. And I've got a sort of a list of items here from the Park El Camino residents. Do you want me to go through the whole list now, or do you want to do this in any specific manner? Do you want me to just ask a couple and then let some other people ask questions and then come back? I just want to be cognizant of everybody's opportunity to ask their questions.
If you could just summarize those, because we do have a limited amount of time. So,
And,
Okay.
And then what I'd also say, Damien, is just make sure that you email that list to Namisha and Gloria, and then they'll get it to me, and we'll address that as soon as we possibly can to the best of our ability.
Okay. So, and these are in no particular order, but so one of the concerns is the height of the buildings. I guess it's building 5 and probably building 2. At the height they're at, our units are going to lose afternoon sun, basically. And the people in those properties, you know, their backyards are going to be right up against your trees. They're not going to have any sunlight from early afternoon on for the rest of the day. They're going to be completely in shadow. So that's a concern. Have you considered that?
We have, and that's the purpose of, you know, this presentation. So what we've done, you know, there's a lot of things to consider. We've thought of that. That's a, you know, very common issue with infill. And so, you know, what we've done is and it's tough, Damien, because you've got to have certain street widths for fire. We originally proposed things that were that allowed a little more space, and they do need 26 feet. That's a standard that stood for a long time. Not blaming fire, you know, the emergency response is quite important, especially nowadays, even in urban areas. But we do comply with the side yard setbacks in this case, and that which we've this plan shows, at least in the trees, If those are a concern, we're more than open to talking about whether you want those there at all, or if you want us to specify certain trees on our landscaping palette that ultimately goes to the decision makers that max out at a certain height. So, we're open to that if that helps allay any concerns.
Okay. I don't know if it allays the concerns, but I'm happy that you're flexible on that. The next one is around sort of the population. You spoke about the increase in the number of bedrooms, and to me that equates to this may actually accommodate more people if there's more bedrooms. And I'm just wondering about that impact as the city sees it on the overall neighborhood and stuff like that. Is there going to be increased services to this area because of that? Or one of the things that's in here is you have a small open space with the plaza area, but I'm assuming that that's only going to be available to residents within in this development, that it's not available to anybody else in the neighborhood while you're still promoting that you're close to parks and other services. So I'm just wondering how this fits in. Is this going to be a closed community, not in the sense of having gates, but will the rest of the surrounding community have any access to any of the facilities here?
No, those will be private to these 33 homeowners. And as it relates to services, having a planning background, and it's not my place to represent, but I would suspect, and Gloria and Namisha can chime in, that when the general plan went through the process that it did in order for it to be codified by decision makers, and there's an environmental document that goes along with that, services are considered, traffic's considered, a lot of those analyses are done. So that I think maybe the question you're driving at is, will the impacts, if you will, of maybe an increased population on these three parcels, was that ever contemplated in the general plan? The answer is probably yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just as a side to that, I'll just note that the city continues to build higher density housing around and has done nothing to improve the open space and park situation. They're not building parks or anything like that to match the increase in population they're going to get with these. So it's not on you guys, but I know there's a city rep here.
Yeah, I think we could just explain that new dwelling units are assessed a parks and recreation fee. And I believe this one's just the net new number. Is that correct, Namisha? Or is it for all I don't think it's for all the units, but the city has collected and is collecting fees for all the new housing units. And it's basically for the purpose of creating new parkland. But of course, parkland isn't cheap. So it has to, some of it's going to new facilities within existing parks, and some of it is to acquire new parkland, because we do have a ratio that's identified in the general plan that says there has to be maintained, I believe it's 3 acres per 1,000 people. So the city is looking to actively purchase new land to accommodate that additional population. Some of this particular project is replacement units. So, and we do use the bedroom count as a population test for how the fees assessed as well. So they are contributing and do pay additional impact fees for other city facilities like sewer connections, water, that kind of thing, fire service. There are fees associated with that.
Okay, thank you. Next 2 questions are really around specific to the building process itself and the impact that that's going to have on the surrounding properties. The noise, early morning starts in the construction industry, the dirt and debris that's going to settle into people's properties. Do you have a plan with managing that?
We do, and many cities have, requirements of when construction can can take place. Excuse me. They also have, and I'll make the census short. You can probably go look, and we can help you kind of get there. There was probably a mitigation monitoring plan that goes along with the EIR that was drafted for the general plan, and those have a myriad of construction-related mitigation measures that all projects have to adhere to, and they address dust, they address noise, they address, how long machines that run on diesel can idle. I mean, it gets very specific, and these are measures that will be held to and can be enforced.
Okay. And finally, my last question right now is with regards to property value. I'm wondering, how is this going to impact our property? I don't understand how, projects like this impact the current community around it. Things are very expensive as it is in this area. These units are not going to be inexpensive. They're going to be expensive to purchase. But what will that do to our complex in particular next door?
Well, it's, if we were talking as, guys on the sidewalk, I'd tell you that your property value is probably going to increase, but I can't represent that as a consultant to Warmington or a source of thrust behind the application that's being considered by the city. No one can really represent that. But by and large, in this industry that I've been in since 1993, Damien, typically goes up.
Okay.
But that's my answer, not Warmington's answer. I want to be clear about that.
All right. That's all I have for now.
Answer that as well. I could almost assure you that the property values will go up. I think we're going to be beautifying the neighborhood more. I know that it's hard to see existing apartments go, but the buildings are old and outdated, and they have served their purpose. But I think this is really going to beautify the neighborhood, and with the increased landscaping and the maintenance that goes along with an HOA taking care of it, I think it's going to be really benefit the neighborhood.
Thanks.
And then increase property values. So,
I just want to check in on what our time is remaining, so that we can structure the rest of the comments that maybe took up quite a bit of time. Mm-hmm. What's our end time? It's now 6:40.
Yeah, so we're scheduled to go until 7:30. So we have about another hour.
Okay. All right. Just want to be mindful of the time so everyone has a chance to express their comments. So, Ken,
yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
Ken, you're next.
Damien, real quick, if you want to email those, I'm on the flyer. I'm Mike Banducci from Warmington. You can shoot your questions to me as well, and I'd be happy to try to answer them in more detail.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, okay. My name's Ken Kratz. I live in the neighborhood. To the city staff, I say, please do not allow the proposed development on Pomeroy Avenue and Calabazas Boulevard until the current tenants of the existing apartments located on that site will be housed in similar accommodations at their current rents. The city council should draft a policy now to keep those neighbors accommodated, and in this case, in their present homes. It appears to me this proposed project will displace low and moderate income tenants with higher income residents, along with a few low income tenants, in order to conform with AB 3194, the Housing Accountability Act. The city council and administrator should be creating policies to save these older apartment buildings and drafting a rent control ordinance to secure low and moderate rents in the city so that low and moderate income people can continue to live in our city. Has the city planner develop or reveal to the public how many low and moderate income tenants live in the existing multifamily housing on that site and how they will be affected by this proposal? I talked to one tenant of the existing complex on Calabazas that will be affected. That tenant is very concerned that they may be displaced due to the new development. According to that tenant, that tenant's rent is $1,900 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. This is much lower than other rental complexes in my neighborhood, and certainly a lot less cost than buying or purchasing one of these new townhouses or flats. The amount of rent that tenant pays is very close to the low income category mentioned in AB 3194, which is $1,740 a month for low income tenants and around $2,900 a month for moderate income residents, as calculated as a percentage of the median household income for Santa Clara, which is approximately $121,000 a year. So again, it appears to me that this project is not creating any advantages for low or middle income renters in the city. And I think this is wrong. And having grown up in the Bay Area, in the Santa Clara County, and being almost entirely raised in a rental complex, I have great sympathy for these folks. And had it not been for the low rents in this city, my family would not have been able to live anywhere in the Bay Area, most likely. So I oppose this, and I will be vocal about it at every level that I can participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
So we do have a couple of questions here in the chat. The first one is, could you provide the distance of new buildings / fence to adjacent apartments and townhomes?
I can. Let me find the best slide for that. Bear with me, please. Let's see. This is, this begins to show that. I'm going to have to enlarge this. And I know that we've got a couple slides with these measurements, but since these are the ones we first find, these are on the...
Hey, Tony, we are going to be revising these a little bit based on the fire department's comments. So we got to be, or is this the latest?
This is not the latest. And Robert or Adam, if you have the ability to bring up the current site plan that I believe we discussed very recently, that would be a good thing to share so that we can address the question of how each of the 5 buildings are set back to adjacent property. Can you guys do that?
I think Evan or Jason the civil has the most current one.
Evan, can you do that?
Hey, Tony, this is Jason. 1 second, please. I'll bring up this PDF here.
Okay, thank you. And what I'll do, when you say that you've brought it up, I will stop this share so that you can share.
No problem.
I'm going to race you, Jason.
No, that's good. Thank you. Okay, Tony, I've got it here.
All right, so I'm going to stop share. And you should, as a panelist, be able to share your screen, Jason. Let me know if you have any
Sure. Yeah,
problem with doing so.
appreciate it. Yep. All right, Tony, I think hopefully everyone's seeing the screen here.
Yeah, you can make it a little larger and just kind of go around the project, maybe buildings 1 through 5, and address all the adjacent dimensions.
Sure. Yeah, I think the graphic here does illustrate the rough setback from each of the buildings here along the perimeter. So you'll see along the northern side of buildings 1 and 2. At the closest stair points on the buildings here, they're about 10 feet to the property line.
And what would you gauge the majority of the building in terms of what that distance is? Would that be 20?
Yeah, between the rest of the face here, there's at least another 5 feet here for the stairs, if not probably close to like 6.
Okay.
Robert, I think the stair widths here are about 4 to 5 feet wide, right?
Right.
So
the majority of the building is probably about 15 feet setback from that where you have your hand right now. The closest point will be the entrance stair at 10 feet.
correct.
And then what about building 3?
3, as you can see, has kind of the larger, bigger buffer here along this southern side here, where we've got about 31 feet or so.
Okay.
So our larger common area open space, as you're aware.
Mm-hmm. And then is 4 and 5 off of Calabazas, please.
Correct. Yeah. This same edge over here at this closest stair here is 10, actually to the to the overhang unit portion of above.
Okay.
Again, at ground level, is a little bit. This is increased, as well as on the other side by building 5. It's a very similar situation here, where we've got 11 at our closest point here, and there's probably another 4 feet or so, 5 feet of additional space. So 15 feet probably close on average along this edge, ditto along this side.
Got it. Okay. Did that address the community members' question, Nisha?
Yeah, I think so. The other comment was also about, or the question was also about the distance between the buildings. So if you could touch on that, that would be great.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, the distance between the buildings here are separated by the street B. The street B has a minimum width of 26 feet wide for fire access and life safety requirements. So that is a established minimum here that we need to maintain threshold from a clear to sky separation. The buildings at ground level will be set off that street B for drive access or driveway access into the corresponding garages for an additional 4 feet on each side. So that totals about 34 feet here in between the buildings.
And then if we went up to the center of the interior street and then between buildings 1, 2, and 3, are the similar dimensions?
Yeah, the same condition applies here. Street A is also the minimum 26 feet wide for fire access and life safety purposes. The buildings still have the same 4-foot driveways into them as well. So the building separation is, again, 34 feet building to building here.
Okay.
And any side setbacks, like between buildings 1 and 2, the minimum building code requirement of 10 feet is provided.
Okay, thank you. And Nisha, I saw a couple of hands go up.
Yeah, I see 4 hands raised. So in the order, the first is named Test. So I'm going to unmute you now. Hi, you can ask your question now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I've got several sort of questions, but I don't really need to spend much time on it because I'm a little bit concerned why the city is allowing this project to even be presented to the community. You haven't even passed, although you just last weekend passed the El Camino plan with amendments to go to the city council. This is a part of a transition property. So without knowing what's going to happen to the plot right behind there associated with the plan for the El Camino, which is supposed to be a high priority project, how that's going to impact the community in general. So this is in a transition area. So we can't make an informed decision without knowing what is happening on the property behind that. So I think it's pretty unfair to the community to be presenting this when we should be focusing on the El Camino plan, not infilling with this type of thing. So that's the primary one. And the second one really is just to point out how disingenuous the AB 3194 slot is. The law came out in January. You're not offering any new housing. Santa Clara is under an extreme housing crunch, and you're doing a 1-for-1. You're reducing the total number of affordable housing, even though you meet a criteria. So it's a complete disservice to the community as well as the city. And it's completely against the goal of the general plan and what the city commission and the council should be looking at. So again, that's a big issue. I'd like you to go back to your slide where you're quoting the zoning for these different properties.
Sure. I could.
I'm looking at the city map, and I'm not seeing any 36D listed for either of the three properties.
Yeah, and I could show you the slide, and then I could perhaps even bring up the general plan as well.
Yeah, no, I've got the general plan. I also have the zoning under the general plan. And I just think it's pretty unfair for you to be misrepresenting the zoning of the properties.
But I'm not.
So clicking up on the plot, there should be 2 R325Ds and R16L. The biggest difference between the R325D and the 36 is the allowance to go to the 45-foot height, which is probably one of the bigger issues that we have with this. You're not meeting the transition plan for the El Camino suggestions for the commission. And the sun question is a big issue. They're in fact looking at changing the El Camino plan specifications for the different zonings for that concern. So you shouldn't be discounting the community's comments about that at all.
This is
Do you have
Nisha.
that slide? Do you have that slide?
Sorry, was I not sharing it? I beg your pardon. Do you not see this? I'm sorry. Are you seeing the city general plan and zoning compliance slide? Is that not shared right now?
I don't see it.
How about now?
Oh, the text.
Which property are you calling R336D?
So the property that is zoned R336D is 1370 Calabazas Boulevard. That's the one that is zoned as R336D.
Okay, well, I'm looking at the city of Santa Clara, the zoning map, and it's not listed as that. It is listed as R325D, moderate density multiple dwelling, lot dimensions 120 by 182. So again, I'm not going to go by a developer's slides. I'm going to go by the city's information.
Okay, so I can just provide a little bit more information to that. As some of you may be aware, the AB 3194, as well as there's other legislation too, essentially took away authority from the cities, even charter cities, to basically have the zoning supersede the general plan. So it's the reverse now, that we have to use only objective standards. And basically a property owner can utilize any zoning code that implements the general plan, as long as there is objective criteria. We can't have any type of qualitative standards unless, again, they are considered truly objective.
Right. And I'm familiar with that law, and I'm also familiar with the request to go to 36D when the current zoning is not. So the 3194 is a way to fast track.
Okay, they don't have to use the existing zoning. Basically, that's set aside. So as long as they have you could actually pick a zoning district that implements the general plan, that would reflect the general plan. You're not bound by the current zoning, and that's what they're utilizing.
Well, and they also need to meet the law and provide additional housing and additional affordable housing, which is the spirit of the law. So you can either just say you're using that to pull one by the committee and not have it go through proper reviews, or you can actually follow the spirit of the law and the intent of the law, which is to provide affordable housing and the spirit of the general plan in order to put more housing in Santa Clara, which they're not doing either.
So I do want to say something based on, and I'm looking at the interactive zoning map, and I'm clicking on 1370, and he's right.
Yes, I am. So it's a misrepresentation of what you're showing the community, and I don't appreciate that.
And I understand, and we apologize. That was a mistake. So both of these both of these parcels, 1577 and 1370, are both R3 25D, and of course the single family is the R1-6L. So apologies. Yeah, not
at a minimum, you should be looking at underground parking, not to mention the tandem parking is absolutely ridiculous for these units. But that height is not even meeting the setbacks for the general plan transition zone. So again, I don't know why the city is even supporting this to go through when it is so far off and so unfair to the community to make a decision without knowing what the priority of the El Camino general plan should be. So I'd be curious to know what the city is thinking in terms of this doesn't come close to an appropriate infill for this location.
Can you show that? I wasn't aware that it was in a formal transition area for the El Camino Real.
It abuts the El Camino Real plan.
Okay.
On multiple edges. Seems like you should be aware of that.
Well, yeah, exactly. And we just had the study session, but so far this was reviewed in our department. I wasn't sure that this was included or was subject to any transition policies, at least
there's less stringency on this property plan than there is on the El Camino development plan. So it's ridiculous to think that you're going to have this property be put up in a transition zone that doesn't even have to meet the El Camino zoning and guidance.
So I did check, the staff did check on if the properties were within the El Camino Real specific plan, and they are not.
No, they are not. They are adjacent, which means part of that transition. So what you're doing is extending the El Camino plan with even higher buildings than what's zoned for the current El Camino plan. And you're not applying the same transition guidance as you would for the El Camino plan for adjacent residential buildings. So I think you need to do a little bit of homework, and I don't think it's fair to be presenting this to community when they can't be informed about what this is going to do and how it's going to impact the community. We need to understand what's happening with the El Camino, what's being put there, before we can come close to an informed decision about putting a 45-foot building that's not even meeting those transition issues in our backyards.
Okay, this is something we can certainly look at and provide some written responses to some of the comments and questions that are raised during this meeting to see whether this property would be subject to any transition policies, and associated with the El Camino Real plan. So we'll check with our project manager, and we can certainly provide a follow-up.
Well, that's part of the problem here, because technically they wouldn't. They would be held to their R636D zoning ordinance that they want to bump up to, that you'll allow them to do falsely under the new law. And they're not held to the transition that the El Camino would for these neighboring homes. So it's absolutely ridiculous that we're even having this meeting. But you want a community input, there's some community input.
We do have some transition policies within the existing general plan that would be, most likely be an objective standard that would be subject to this development. So
the El Camino plan has non-objective standards in order to allow these developments to be fast-tracked, and that's what you're effectively allowing this to happen. So again, it's ridiculous that we're having this meeting right now, particularly with this development and these plans.
Okay, thank you. We're going to have to get back to that. And do you have any other comments aside from that, or we'll move on to the next?
I'll save them for the Planning Commission and the City Council. Thank you.
Okay. Just to mention, this project would not go to Planning Commission or City Council. It is considered an administrative approval since it is within the AB 3194.
But it's not in AB 3194. There's not an additional housing element, and it doesn't increase the affordable housing. So how can it be labeled as, just because they say they're going to use that law doesn't mean they fit the law?
Yeah. Again, this was reviewed with our city attorney, and essentially they're able to utilize it if they're meeting the objective standards and basically implementing the existing general plan.
Okay, I'll go back to him with the non-objective standards that are not being met. Okay, thank you.
All right. Manuel Vieira.
Hello?
Oh, you might have more than one audio device on.
Okay. Hello?
Echoing. You'll have to shut off one of your devices.
Hello? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm one of the owners of the 1360 Calabazas apartment complex, adjacent to building number, where's that paperwork? Adjacent to building number 4 and building number 3. And, I agree with the other gentleman regarding the procedure of the El Camino project, but on a solid note, me as the second generation owning 1360 Calabazas, and I do take offense about they have done their purposes and they're ready to be thrown away. That is just a new way of doing things. I was taught that when you buy something, you keep it, you maintain it, and it's your jewels forever. Like the old quad of Santa Clara, they have maintained those historical buildings, and they are jewels for our city. Now, to take away these apartment complexes that are affordable, or better yet, I'm going to be like a little miniature guy, 2-story, with the bedrooms of my residents to their front door of building number 4 with noises and stuff. And then adjacent, they're going to put trees there, which is could affect my cement foundation because, we have the setback back in the day, I think it's 6 feet. And they're going to have 10 feet, and that's included to the front door. Where's the tree going to go? Where's the roots going to go? The damage to my property. Where's the sun going to go if it's going to be 4 stories? People will be looking at people's bedroom windows, bathroom windows, because that's the whole thing on that side of the building. But obvious, this big Goliath is not thinking about us old-time Santa Clara residents at a long time. I went to school at Santa Clara High. I am been raised and born in Santa Clara. I saw the Kaiser Hospital go down. I see that complex went up over there, which is basically a big cluster of being stuck if you can make a wrong turn around there, which is a shame. You got other projects that are 4 stories high next to the old quad in El Camino towards Monroe by the Kentucky Fried Chicken, which is a shame of ruining that area. That's the old quad historically. I mean, it's almost as bad as when Wiesel damaged the downtown on Franklin Street and by Franklin Mall. I mean, I wish you guys would consider. I mean, I know there's a lot of new people in the city, but we need to cherish what we got and to do this high density housing. When there is a parking problem right now on Calabasas, there's a parking problem and there's a police problem that cannot enforce anything about parking because of COVID. You got homeless that are in the area there that cannot be chased out of there because of COVID. I mean, and then doing this type of complex with construction, I can just imagine what's going to happen there. And I do take offense saying that my place is ready to be torn down, like the one next door. I think we maintain our property pretty well, and we serve a purpose for the people that are serving us food at the restaurants, doing the construction work around the area. I don't have techies in my apartment complex. I got workers in my complex and the neighbors too. But again, you're going to devalue my property. You'll be hearing more from me. But again, you're going to invade our privacy by being so high, looking at my residence in my apartment. I know that the city does require that you cannot look at someone else's bedroom window and stuff, but obviously this project does not even take this into consideration. So that's one of my biggest concerns right now, especially the height. It's just unreasonable. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roman Khan, do you want to unmute? Roman next.
Yes. Roman. Yeah, Roman, you are now unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi there. I'm actually speaking on behalf of my uncle who resides at 1577 Pomeroy. And the reason for my participation today is he's actually at work and unable to attend this meeting. And I do visit him quite regularly. And I just wanted to highlight a few things. First of all, I personally welcome any projects that are to be developed. But at the same time, based on what I have learned so far during the presentation, I personally believe that this is not only absurd, but more importantly, this development is throwing peanuts to these current tenants, such as, like the gentleman Tony Craig mentioned, that, yeah, we're going to accommodate a couple of months of rent. Have you ever asked yourself a question that people who live day to day and barely able to pay $1,800 to $2,000 rent per month, you're going to offer them 2 months of rent and you expect them to find another place that is at least 1.5 times more in rent without any true assistance? This is just completely unfair. And more importantly, you guys cannot do this during the midst of the pandemic. The pandemic is nowhere near over. Nowhere near over. In fact, if you are not aware already, there are barely 37% of the populations in America are vaccinated. So this whole pandemic is still a serious issue that stands. So I am going to do everything I can within my power to continually fight this, along with Diane, Ken, Jason. I thank you guys. Please stick with this. We will fight this through. We will file a claim. We will file a lawsuit, whatever it takes. This is not going to fight. This is basically, you guys are putting people on the street with no reasonable mindset. Just because you guys have the money to do whatever you want, just because you guys have the connections with the city, it is not fair. This is not fair. This cannot continue. You guys cannot put people on the street. I personally know the financial situation of my several family members that live in that unit. At least to be exact, 3 family members that lives in 1577 Pomeroy. And I will do everything I can financially to fight this, because this is not acceptable. And I urge you guys to rethink this. And I urge Namisha, please thoroughly rethink this before this project goes to the next level, because this is not fair. Just because people who have money, who can sit tight and live in a nice area and don't have to worry about their day-to-day, they can behave this way. And this behavior has to stop. I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Deborah Van Hewn.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I also live on Pomeroy, a few blocks away, and I have a clarifying question. If we could go back to that timeline slide.
You betcha.
I think it was maybe with the first or second slide.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. So I thought when you were introducing this that you mentioned that this revised plan was a result of recommendations from the Planning Commission.
No, it was just the planning department.
Planning department. Okay, not the Planning Commission. But I'd still like to understand what changes you made in this revised plan in response to those recommendations.
Yeah, I can give you a sense. What I'm going to do, if you don't mind terribly, is I'm going to spare you my searching in my file explorer. And I'm going to bring up, for my quick reference, some comments that we received last year, and it's a application process that's called a pre-app, and so they're kind of sketches, and it goes through all the departments. It goes through fire, it goes through utilities, it goes through planning, it goes through building, storm, sewer, etc. And so, bear with me, and I'm going to try to kind of paraphrase the substance of comments that were 3 pages long.
I'm just curious as to what changes were made from the original plan and why.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, and forgive me.
Well, a quick answer is that the plan you're seeing is the original plan because we haven't addressed all the comments yet.
Right.
But we are in the process of doing that, and most of it was technical regarding setbacks. We realigned some buildings, created more setbacks where we could, and also we increased the drive aisle, which actually then reduced some of the setbacks to meet fire department standards. So the plan is generally the same, but there was some technical things that we didn't meet in the zoning that didn't meet city standards. And that's to sum it up. We're still in the process of doing that, and hopefully the plan gets better. But it is a tight site, so we're a little confined.
Yeah, I just scanned those, and that's a fair representation of the changes that were made.
Okay, so it was mostly the technical issues and fire and safety and so on, and nothing about affordable housing or density or anything like that.
Well, the density, again, that which is allowed here by the general plan is 20 to 36. Our density is 20.9 as proposed. And in terms of the affordable housing, we are meeting the affordable housing requirements of the local ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next in line is Anthony Becker.
Hello there. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, this is Councilmember Anthony Becker. I'm really kind of curious. I heard something just a moment ago because I've been getting a lot of resident feedback about this project and contacted, and that's why I'm here in this meeting and listening to this, is if you can repeat, why is this not coming to Planning Commission or Council?
Because there's no rezoning involved. So that would basically, it would go to Planning Commission and City Council if there was a legislative action involved, which is a rezoning or general plan amendment. But since they're utilizing the general plan only and utilizing basically state law that's basically under the Housing Crisis Act and Housing Accountability Act, we're bound to basically provide almost a ministerial process as long as they meet objective zoning standards. So as long as they pick a zoning code that matches the general plan, if the city doesn't have it, they're able to utilize basically any zoning code that fulfills the general plan, and it has to be an administrative approval. So that's under state law. That control no longer exists with the city.
Okay, so my one question is, seeing that it's not going to be coming to council, I guess, is this going to displace more people than putting more people in? I mean, is this going to basically contradict the housing crisis by creating less places for people to live that are more affordable? I think is what I've been hearing. A lot of the concerns I've been getting in emails and phone calls, as well as what I've been hearing here tonight.
Well, the Housing Crisis Act talks about all housing units. It does have additional legislation regarding affordable units and gives more concessions if you're building either half of the units as affordable or all of it as affordable, but that's a choice of a property owner or developer. The city can't mandate that. And so essentially it's really as private property, they're able to utilize a variety of housing law that allows new projects. So there isn't a requirement that I'm aware of. Tony, are you aware of any requirements? Because unless they're actually dedicated affordable units, that's the only time that there's a restriction. If they're just lower income because they maybe are older units or they're, maybe have less amenities, that kind of thing, the city isn't able to restrict their demolition under one of these new housing laws. It's only if they were income restricted as part of the original approval, and then they're bound to maintain or offer them for low or moderate or income housing for a set period of time, usually 40 or 50 years. But if they're just lower, I said, because of a market situation, that does not obligate the city or the developer technically.
Okay, so
or legally, I should say.
Understand that. So seeing that my hands are tied, which really concerns me. How does any of these, because I'm hearing a lot of the concerns, like I said, I got emails and contacted. I didn't even think that was not going to come to us. That's why I was very drawn back at any concerns or comments, because I don't want to have any predetermined judgment or bias. What does the residents have, or what leg do they have to stand on, and what do they have to, I guess, combat this concern that they're having, and what are their options, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to. Because I'm kind of concerned hearing the pushback from residents and seeing that maybe they don't even have a leg to stand on, or maybe they don't even have a voice.
Well, the unfortunate thing about while the Housing, Accountability Act and Housing Crisis Act has a lot of positive things about it, it has removed a lot of, or essentially just about every type of local control that the cities used to exercise, which would include discretionary applications and conditions that are related to the project. And unless the city adopts an ordinance such as displacement of particular income groups, there's not, or has a rent control ordinance, there isn't anything that, the city can do at this point, unless, again, there's some type of ordinance or policy. I mean, it would have to be an ordinance to protect low income folks from being displaced. Again, unless they are restricted by agreement, housing, basically affordable housing agreement, that is the only type of affordable housing that the city is able to enforce and protect. Again, as I mentioned, the state laws, there's a lot of them that allow for additional density, concessions to different development standards, such as height, lot coverage, open space requirements, that kind of thing. And so the development community is utilizing a lot of the new state law in order to basically bring new housing on quicker. And that's been part of the reason why the state has basically created this enabling legislation, is because the time to bring on new units is really lengthy and it's time consuming. And then it's also very expensive. So sometimes, the average multifamily development prior to this would be about a 2-year time frame to bring something before it can even break ground. Just to gain an entitlement, let alone break ground. So a lot of this is preempting what we have done in the past.
Understand.
I'm sure the number of bedrooms, the number of bedrooms that we're including. I think that's one of the ways we thought we were helping out the area, is actually increasing the bedroom count where we could have more people living. You could have extended family members live there. You could have families live there since the school's so close, they could walk to school. So we felt we were creating a diverse housing that could help the neighborhood meet several needs. So we'll definitely look at how we can help the current tenants as much as we can. And we can definitely reconsider or rethink that through. We don't know how far in 2 years from now what the economy and stuff's going to hold for us. So I hate to commit exactly what we can do, but we definitely want to help them out, and we do know that is an issue, and we definitely don't want to have anybody kicked on the street and not have a home to go to. So we definitely understand the issue.
Well, I hope you guys do, because I mean, it kind of does concern me. I don't know how many of those people are going to actually be able to afford it. So, but all right, thank you very much.
And we are going to hire a consultant to see if they can work with the city. And I know that there's a lot of new projects coming online. We're looking at another project down the street that is going to include a significant amount of affordable housing. I think it's about 60% of the units will be affordable. We're working with a affordable housing group on that project, and if we're successful getting that one approved, I think that there would be a good possibility for a landing spot for a lot of these people. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities in the city, especially if the El Camino plan gets approved, and that's what comes along with adding development, and there'll be a more diverse economic levels that people can afford in these in the plan. So again, I think there are, like Tony, our other project we're proposing has 66. Again, that's in a different path, and we're trying to work through the city with that. But I think there's a lot of low-income housing groups that are looking at properties that they can do that in. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity. And again, we have 2 years down the road before this is getting built.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member Becker.
The next speaker is with the name Galaxy Note 10 Plus. I'm going to unmute you.
I think that's our last speaker, and then we should get to some of the questions in the chat.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I don't really have any questions. You've seemed to have answered most of my questions. I did want to comment that I noticed on one of your slides that you say that 1577 Pomeroy is 1-bedroom units, and they are not 1-bedroom units. Just for your information, they are 2-bedroom units. I think there's a couple of 3-bedroom units. So that changes your bedroom count. But I did want to just comment that I have been a resident at 1577 for 11 years. I'm a 60-year-old single woman that has a limited income. I do have a job, but I don't have a lot of potential to make big money in the future. This is affordable to me to live here. And I know a lot of my neighbors have been here longer than I have. This would displace so many of us, and I keep talking about building 4 and building 4 or 5 and blah blah blah. We need to talk about people, because it is the people that are going to be hurt by this, and I just feel like this should just not go forward. And thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We could certainly, check with our housing department, and they're the ones that handle like affordable housing agreements and things like that, and just see what information we can provide to you regarding the displacement or relocation and what avenues are available.
You're not listening. You're not listening to the people. So I just.
Well, I'm just trying to respond to the questions that we can, because
you're asking for 2 full buildings of apartment residents to find affordable housing. And that's kind of a ridiculous goal to reach here. There's a lot of people here. It's not just 1 or 2 people trying to find a new place to live. So please consider that when you're making your decisions. Thank you.
Amisha, do you want to read some of the questions in the chat?
Yeah, and I'm seeing one raised hand, but I believe that they did have an opportunity to talk. I don't know if the hand is not lowered or...
We technically only have 4 minutes left, so I'd like to get some of the questions.
Okay.
And we can respond to maybe some of these questions in the chat in a written too.
The one of the questions was about providing, or comment was about providing the hard copy of the planning department recommendations. I think they're referring to the project clearance committee minutes or comments. be made available. I think that is public information, and we can certainly do that. We can have it available due to pandemic. The city hall is closed currently for public, so we can just have it available on the city's website.
Do we have a link to the web page for this project where we could post those project clearance committee comments?
Yeah.
Is this? Yeah. Is this? Sorry.
This was. Sorry, Tony. This is the link to the informational handout that we had prepared, but we do have the link to the project webpage on the city's website, and I can just post that in the chat, the link to the project webpage, and it is available. We can have the PCC minutes available on that webpage. I am seeing comments but not questions in the chat. Other than that, I'm not sure if I missed any. Gonna go through it again. And I'm looking for questions that we have not discussed here yet.
Well, I think the other one has to do with whether we can deny demolition of the existing apartments.
Gloria, I'm not seeing that comment.
And Nimish just raised his hand.
Yeah, if anybody has any other questions, they can raise their hands. Okay, I see a raised hand from Saeed. If I can allow them to talk.
That's right.
And then I've unmuted you, Saeed. You can speak now.
Yeah. Hi, this is Saeed. Yeah, I live in 1577 Pomeroy Avenue, almost 10 years. So the problem is like this, just like one Zoom meeting, let me go here. And maybe you guys give me some time, but very hard for us being here right now. Because we are all just working nearby here, all family, we are all family here. We working all nearby this area. And we are just a regular payment job. So that's the way very hard to find the house this area. So whatever we live here 10 years, we pay how much here, that's the rent. It's very hard to find this area. And our children is going to this nearby school. So I know you guys say you guys look for a house and this and that, but you just say like that. But if it is possible to consider us, we are all almost 6 family living here almost 15 years. And there are our children going to this school, and it's very hard for us to moving here. And this is the pandemic time, you know. Thank you. Just if you think, just think about that and consider us. We are almost 10 family living here right now. 1 and 2 apartment maybe empty. And just most of these we live long time here. So that's very hard for us to move here, this area. Even semi-rent house living this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I'm seeing a question here. It's a general question. There is no new affordable housing in Santa Clara, no new affordable senior housing either. What is city doing about this? It's more of a general question, not necessarily related to the project.
Well, it could be related to our other project. We're proposing 65 senior units there. We'd love to get those approved as fast as possible. And those are all averaging 50% of the median income.
The next question is about once the meeting is over, we would like to access to the recording. We would like access to the recording of this meeting. And yes, the recording would be made. This meeting is being recorded, and the recording would be made available on the city's website. Again, on the project webpage. The next question is, would you please provide the diagram with measured distance to adjacent buildings? We have made the plans available on the city's website, but maybe we can have more of a zoomed in version, clearly showing that.
Yeah, and so I'll try to get to that. Bear with me. Let's see. And again, folks, not only is this a work in process, this has adjusted because we've had to widen these streets. So what I can do, Namisha, is send you the site plan that our engineer, Jason Neary, reviewed earlier in the Zoom. I can provide that to you. And it's a work in progress. It's where we are now based on responding to the bulk of planning and fire comments. And I don't think, Mike, there's an issue with providing that to the community members, because that is where we currently sit in terms of the setbacks. And I can email that to you, Namisha.
Sure, thank you. I don't see any other questions in the chat box. There is a comment here just now posted. Please add the city attorney's opinion on this project use of AB 3194 to the project website. And yes, we had prepared an informational handout that was reviewed by our city attorney's office, which we are going to make available. We were trying to make it available before the meeting, but unfortunately there was some technical issues and the link isn't working right now. But we will make sure that that is fixed and has more information about the project also related to AB 3194. I don't see any other questions.
Yeah, I just want to respond a little bit to that. This isn't a full answer, but just in regards to the AB 3194, I did hear back from the attorney. He did respond that under that state law that it prohibits demolishing residential dwelling units unless the project will create at least as many residential dwelling units as will be demolished. And that's per government code 66300 D1. But we'll include that in the information. So that's just one of the provisions, but we can certainly do the analysis and provide that with the 3194 for the project so everyone can see that. We'll post that on the project webpage. All right.
I am seeing a couple of raised hands. I don't know if Bashar has had a turn to speak. I think we're at 7:36 right now, but I think we can have.
Absolutely, yeah, that's fine.
Bashar?
Bashar, you should be able to unmute yourself and speak.
Hello?
Now. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, hi. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, hi. I'm one of the 1577 Pomeroy residents. I just want to echo what the other residents just say now. And I want to ask something here. What kind of service you're doing to the community? I think this project is shredding the community, not doing any favor to the community. And we are all here in this hard time during the pandemic. Everybody is suffering from this now. This is not a good time for this. Please reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Bashar.
There's one more hand that is raised. I think you did have the opportunity to speak, but yeah, we can come back to you for, you are unmuted now. You can go ahead and speak. The person named TEST test here.
So Gloria, again to my point I made earlier, and the lawyer's comments that he just got back to you, there's a requirement in the law for increasing the number of housing, and the number of units are a swap. I know there's some hand raising about bedrooms, but if the city considers the 3 individual lots and the medium density zoning that's available to them, the total number of units that could be developed on the 3 individual ones far exceeds what this combined rezoning would be in terms of the 3. So not only does it not meet AB 3194 in terms of the number of housing, or the spirit to increase the number of affordable housing for sure, even though they might meet a low criteria. Again, it shouldn't be allowed to go through that. And I'm sure that's going to meet some resistance in the courts in order to push that through. But again, the individual lots can be developed to increase housing on their own. The medium density R16L can have up to 8 homes on it. As well as many more density on the 1370 or the other larger lot. So, and that would be without displacing all the residents in the current apartments and providing what is now affordable housing to the citizens. So once again, I'm asking you, the city employees, why this is being put through and ramrodded to the community, because it doesn't even meet the current law. So my question is again, why are we at this meeting and why are you presenting it to us? I'm sorry, did you hear me?
Yeah, we heard you.
Okay.
I'll respond to that, and I can certainly add any more comments.
Yeah, sure. So this project went through a typical application process. The applicants had first submitted a pre-application, and it was reviewed by all the departments, including all the utilities, housing division for affordable component, planning division, and planning division specifically looks to see if the project is meeting all the zoning standards and other guidelines. Since the project would utilize AB 3194.
Again, since it will utilize it, but again, it doesn't qualify.
Yeah, if I may just finish. This application has also been reviewed by the city attorney's office. And what they found was that the project did comply with those requirements. It did, and the comments that planning division had made earlier to this application were more in line with if the project was meeting the zoning regulations for R336D, because that is the zoning district that applicants chose to have all the regulations, everything comply with. So that was where this application. So again, certainly this application has been reviewed by the city attorney's office to make sure that they can utilize AB 3194. Gloria, if you want to add something to that.
Sure. And there are some provisions regarding, certain types of protected units. So we may need to follow up with the residents to ask some questions to see whether or not there's any type of qualifying protection for that occupancy. So again, we'll take the questions and comments that were in the chat. We'll respond to those. We may have to formulate those in some terms of questions in order to respond to those. And then if you could send your email addresses to Namisha, those of you who live on the Calabazas project, we can certainly get back to you with any questions that we have in helping to make this determination. So we will be meeting with the city attorney to talk about those concerns and whether or not there's any obligation on for those units. Okay.
Excuse me? Hello?
Is this Bashar? Do you have additional comments?
Yeah, actually, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
So can I have your email, Nisha? Because I already sent you an email and it didn't go through.
I can certainly type my email address in the chat box here.
Yes, please. Thank you.
So I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat box or any other raised hands here.
So it looks like that concludes our meeting, and we'll certainly update the web page. And if, again, Nimisha, did you put your, okay, thank you for putting your email there. And then, and we'll provide those responses, say within a week from this meeting date, hopefully sooner.
And I've also added the planning email address in case, just to make sure that your comments are received.
Tony, do you want to wrap things up?
No, I think that's it. Appreciate everyone's time. Again, if there, for any reason, if we didn't get to anybody, please submit your comments to Nimisha so that we can in turn receive them, and we'll respond to them as soon as possible and to the best of our ability. And I think that's it for now. And again, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.